Greetings, everyone. It is now 6:03. We will begin the open session of the regularly scheduled July 1st meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
I would be delighted to. Councilmember Keldorf.
Here.
Councilmember Giroux.
Here.
Councilmember Boyles.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Baldino.
Here.
And Mayor Pimentel.
Here. And tonight for the invocation, we have Father Alexei from the St. Andrew's Russian Greek Catholic Church. And following that, Councilmember Keldorf will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Father Alexei.
Thank you, Your Honor. Inasmuch as we're about to celebrate our national holiday, the 4th of July, I thought tonight I would share with you Abraham Lincoln's prayer for the United States. Almighty God, who has given us this good land for our heritage, we humbly beseech you that we may always prove ourselves a people mindful of your favor and glad to do your will. Bless our land with honorable ministry, sound learning, and pure manners. Save us from violence, discord, and confusion, from pride and arrogance, and from every evil way. Defend our liberties, and fashion into one united people the multitude brought here out of many kindreds and tongues. Endow with your spirit of wisdom those whom in your name we entrust the authority of government, that there may be justice and peace at home, and that through obedience to your law, we may show forth your praise among the nations of the earth. In time of prosperity, fill our hearts with thankfulness, and in the day of trouble, suffer us not to trust in you. And as a Christian, then he ends his prayer. All this we ask through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you very much. If you could face the flag, put your hand over your heart, and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Keldorf. And as always, thank you, Father Alexei, for your inspirational choice. We have no special presentations this evening. We do have public communications. Madam Clerk, how many do we have?
I just am counting that, sir. 5, please.
5. Are any of them addressing agendized items?
I don't believe so.
And we'll go.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. They're all item 10.
They're all item 10.
Yeah, the ones that are addressing are item 10.
How many are addressing?
1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, this one didn't say. Okay. Yes. They're
All of them.
item 10.
Okay,
Thank you.
5 minutes each.
Okey-dokey. I would like to invite Meredith Kittner, please.
Hi, I'm Meredith Kittner. I'm the parent of Sydney Kittner, 8 years old, who is on the water polo team for South Bay United. And we are here to hear about the plan for pool times. As you might imagine, Sydney is, again, 8 years old. Her recommended bedtime is about 8 o'clock, and her practice times typically start at 7:30. She is typically not going to bed until about 10:30 on water polo nights. But this little kid loves water polo. She's been on the swim team, and she chose water polo on purpose. And she argues with me about her bedtime a lot. And so typically the answer is, we'll take it up with City Hall. So here we are. Sydney's also on the speaker list. She would like to say a few words.
Hi, my name is Sydney Kittner. I'm 8 years old. And I don't think that it's fair that we have to do a 2-hour long a practice that starts late, but then when we get there, the swim team, they're just getting out, but we're just getting started. It starts at 6 something, and then it ends at 8:30, and usually, and sometimes it used to end at 9, and I don't think that I should be going to bed that late because then I have to go home, which takes like 20 minutes or something. And by the time I'm home, it's already 9 o'clock. And then I have to take a shower, do all that. It takes an hour. And so basically, I'm going to bed at 10 o'clock at night. And that's way too late for me. And then I'm tired in the morning, so I don't want to get up. But I have to get up really early for my camps and stuff. So I don't think it's fair that we have to do it that late.
Thank you, Sydney. And thank you, Meredith.
I believe Tegan Branagh Houston and Kyla Morgan would like to come up together.
Hello, my name is Kyla Morgan, and I'm at the same club as Sydney and South Bay United Water Polo Club, and I am here to please request an earlier pool time because, like Sydney, I'm a little bit older. I'm 12, but it's used to end at like 9, and so in middle school I have way more homework, so I have to do homework, and it's really hard to fit all that in, and I go to bed super late, later than I should be, and then I have to wake up really late, and I'm like late to school, even though it's summer, and it's really hard to fit everything in, and I'm always tired, which is not a good feeling. So I'm asking to please request to have earlier to pool time because for younger players, and yeah, thank you so much.
Adding on to Kyla and Sydney, I am 11 years old, and I am also on South Bay United Water Polo Club, and it is unfair that people go from, I would say, 8 or 7, like Sydney's age, up to 16, maybe older, have to have a 2-hour-long practice that used to end at 9 and now ends at 8:30. And I know there are some people on my water polo club who live further away from me, from the pool we practice at, and it's harder for them to come to practice and end at a later time and then drive away. And it is also harder when you have to go to bed at a later time and still like do your usual daily and nightly tasks and have to fit in a 2-hour-long practice, which is kind of harder for younger people like me. And I know my parents would definitely agree that I'm very crabby if I don't go to bed early and I don't get enough sleep. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Tatum. Thank you, Kyla.
Alex Heck, please.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. My name is Alex Heck, 1450 East Palm Avenue. I'm going to keep this brief, a rare miracle, because I'm already late to dinner at my in-laws. For the past 10 years, I've taught and coached for South Bay United Water Polo Club. For many of your kids, got their start with me as their teacher or coach. And right now, nearly 20 young athletes, most from El Segundo, are thriving in my splash ball program, which runs Mondays and Wednesdays from 3:30 to 4:30 p.m. But once they move up to our 10U team, we lose them. There's a steep drop-off in enrollment. Most families cite that our 7:30 p.m. start time as the #1 reason that they don't continue. Ever since ESAC opened, all 10U, 12U, 14, 16, 18U water polo teams have been relegated to the latest time slots, while club swim teams have consistently held primetime deep water access. It's not fair, it's not equitable for us or the other water polo club. Now, I respect the swim teams. My own kids swim for one of them. They do great work, but the point remains, it's time youth water polo had a turn at prime access too. I'm asking for a 2-hour deep water slot immediately following El Segundo High's practices on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. It's a simple swap with one of the swim teams. We'd move into a time currently held by a swim team who could take our later slot. It's efficient too. In the fall and winter, the lane lines are already out, and it creates space for our high school players to finish practice and then perhaps come coach and assist our younger kids. They'd earn money, grow as leaders, and pass on what they've learned. Our own Neela Ward, head coach of the high school's boys and girls team, is part of our staff. Under my plan, Neela can continue her impressive legacy, transitioning seamlessly from coaching high school water polo to coaching club water polo. Again, all I'm asking is for a 2-hour deep water slot immediately following El Segundo High's practices on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. It's a simple swap. No chance that no water polo club has had ever since the pool has opened. So let's give these kids the access they deserve. South Bay United is ready to pay fair costs, and we're simply asking for a fair opportunity. Thank you all so much for what you do for this amazing town. Have a wonderful Independence Day, one of the best days in this town, bar none. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach Heck.
And Kurt Fry, please.
Good evening, council members. I'm Kurt Fry, live in Manhattan Beach, and I run South Bay United Water Polo Club. I think I know all of you personally, so I want to say hello. Thank you for everything that you guys do, and girls. I just wanted to say thank you again for taking on this monumental task of trying to allocate time to the user groups. I know how difficult it is. It's never easy. There's lots of passion involved, which I'm sure we'll see more of in the coming weeks. But I think you've heard from some of our parents here, some of our players, which is great. I love to see them up here speaking their mind. But as you guys know, it is a challenge to create a water polo club, keep a water polo club running when all you have is late evening times. The staff has been incredible, allowing us to stay past 9 on occasions, but it is challenging. It's challenging to grow our numbers, and as you guys know, the only way to grow numbers is with the younger players. We need your help. I know it's going to be a challenge. We're here to help you. I am here with a lot of ideas, creative ideas, rotating plans, all those things. I'm not going to be here to criticize. I just want to help, and I want to be fair to everybody. But as our parents and players and our great coach, Alex, who coached my son as well, if you can give us a chance, I think we can do some great things. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Coach Fry. Madam Clerk, is that everybody?
That's it. Yes, thank you.
All right. Any council comments?
This is coming up later,
Sure.
right?
This is coming up later. It's agendized item.
Well,
but
the allocation of pool time is not on the
okay,
agenda.
yeah.
That's what
I said I wanted to be
that's
clear.
what I wanted to
We're
say.
hiring
Okay,
someone
yeah.
to go over all this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was actually going to say the same thing, Mayor, that the item on the agenda tonight really is to just review the 50% report that the consultant is doing as part of a business plan. It's really tonight is not to discuss lane times and hours and so forth, so.
It's not, but it will be loosely part of the conversation, right? Because the plan that we saw doesn't talk about utilization hours at all, and maybe how the plunge comes into play with that. So while we will not be talking about who gets what hours, I think we will be talking about the total pie that we could divvy up.
In light of that, maybe we can even move number 10 before number 9, since folks are here. It's up to the council.
Any objection to take 10 before 9?
No.
All right. Well, with that, I'll take a motion for a procedural motion to read all ordinances and resolutions on the agenda by title only.
So moved. Yep. Second.
Drew on the second, Mayor Pro Tem Baldino on the first. All in favor? Aye. No opposed, no abstentions. Consent, any polls? Ooh, somebody better move quick.
I'll move approval of the consent calendar.
Pimentel on the second, Baldino on the first. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. And no abstentions. There are no public hearings this evening. So that said, we will now take item 10. Director Mancini, are you ready? Okay, this is the Aquatics Business Plan, 50% progress update. The floor is yours.
Yes, good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. Tonight, staff is presenting an update on the draft business plan for the City of El Segundo Aquatics Program. City staff have been working with consulting firm Councilman Hunsaker since April to develop a comprehensive operational business plan that will include a detailed analysis and recommendations to support the aquatics program's sustainable operation, focusing on both revenue generation and cost management. The business plan will include specific information regarding projected revenue streams, expense forecasts, management structures, and staffing requirements. As we've sort of already alluded to, it's really important to note that tonight is a 50% completion update, so we are really kind of in the middle of this. And the idea is to allow the consultant to sort of share an overview of the plan's current progress, including some initial considerations for the council to provide feedback on. But as you will see in the presentation, there are still several key data points for the consultant and staff to explore as the plan is finalized. So in relation to the comments that we heard earlier, we aren't discussing specific lane allocation at this time, but it is something that we're going to dive into further. And I will turn the presentation over now to Mr. Miklos Valdez from Councilman Hunsaker, and he will walk you through his presentation.
Hi, thank you so much for that intro. Give me one moment while I share my screen. All right. Am I being heard by everybody? I'll take that as a yes. Again, thank you for having me, Mr. Mayor, council members. I'm Miklos Valdez with Councilman Hunsaker. We were tasked by the city to develop a comprehensive operational business plan for the three City of El Segundo aquatic facilities. As Ali had mentioned, this is a 50% meeting requested to present our findings to date. Our agenda today is to discuss the initial feedback that we received from stakeholders that we met with. We'll look at some market analysis, demographics, and some area provider information that we've collected to date. We'll also dive into the 50% business plan review, and that reviews the full system as well as including plunge into that. As Ali had mentioned, this is a 50% review. We are not complete by any means. This presentation is meant to provide a review of the information that we've collected so far and to elicit feedback from council to guide the rest of the business plan. We don't have all the answers today. We'll have models to describe some of the findings and to get feedback. All of these numbers will change before the end of the project, so please don't get too hung up on any of the specific numbers. Nothing has been approved at this point. This is to get some initial feedback from the group. So first, we'll talk about the feedback that we've received from stakeholders. We met with stakeholders over April and May to get their input for the business plan. We met with several city officials, the aquatics division, and several user groups that currently rent space at the El Segundo Aquatic Center. We wanted to know what they saw as a definition of success for the city of El Segundo, and this definition can differ from group to group. We also wanted to know what would make their user group more successful. And when it came to the city and the aquatics division and their team, what would help make their programs more successful. To look at some of the specific feedback that we received, we also looked at the notes from the City Council meeting on April 15th of this year, where the cost recovery goals were discussed somewhere between 90 to 100% for the El Segundo Aquatic Center. roughly 50% for the plunge. We also heard about developing KPIs for lane allocation and to ensure program success. We also discussed optimizing the lane allocation program to ensure that it's equitable. We heard tonight several comments regarding user group swim times and practice times, and that was reiterated throughout our discussions. So those were heard loud and clear. While we don't have any initial changes at this point, that is something that will be looked at in the next round. We also heard that there needs to be clear communication between the City of El Segundo and the user groups, and to help standardize those rental contracts. We heard more information about optimizing lane allocation, including seasonal usage patterns, and as I had just said, practice times. We heard about the potential to move swim lessons to the plunge. Again, that is not something that is reflected in these current models, but will be looked at for the next round. We also heard about equitable programming at the plunge and across all pools to ensure that there is programming for all age groups and all members, and to compare rental rates across the region. We heard from staff about some of the challenges to engage more swim lessons and to provide more swim instructors. We wanted to also explore wellness and rehab programs similar to La Mirada and the success that they've had at their facility, and also to look at marketing for other types of rentals like film and events. Next, we'll discuss the market analysis. None of this will likely be news to anyone here. The City of El Segundo is an excellent market for swimming, and there's high demand. While the local economy is robust and largely affluent, the city remains a low-cost provider, purposefully a low-cost provider, which is a key consideration in this business plan. The city as a whole is looking at some slight population growth by 2028. And there are many families and households in close proximity, which is great to access the aquatic centers that are in place. When it comes to age distribution, the City of El Segundo is right at the median age in the U.S. And about 20% of the population is under the age of 20, which is excellent when it comes to youth programming and for hiring for lifeguards and swim instructors. Roughly 15% of the population is under the age of 14, which again is excellent for swim lessons and youth programs. There's strong income levels here in the City of El Segundo.
Can you hear me? Excuse me. The
Yes.
demographic information, we all have our census data. Can I recommend we move forward into the business plan, please?
Absolutely. This slide goes over some of the area swim schools. We looked at city programs as well as private swim schools. The City of El Segundo is on par and within the range of other city swim programs. As you can see in the first, I think 6 or 7 lines here in this chart. And then when it comes to local private schools, El Segundo, along with the other city providers, are considerably less for group and private lessons. And this is an area that can be reviewed to improve cost recovery. We looked at pricing in the local market for daily swims and memberships. Again, the city of El Segundo is right in line with other municipal providers. So when it comes to the market fee analysis, what stands out is that the city of El Segundo's fee structure is lower than that of private swim schools considerably. And that really reflects on a trend across the United States. Most municipal operations tend to be much lower than private providers to enhance accessibility to swimming. Although the fees are, although some of the daily fees are slightly higher than some of the local programs, and swim lesson fees are slightly higher than some of the local programs. If you look at LA County, those are largely free and are offset by subsidies, so to keep those programs accessible for their constituents. There is an opportunity to increase swim lesson fees while still being much lower than private options. That's something we'll explore in these models and throughout the business plan. And then we'll also continue to look at daily swim memberships and punch pass fees as we continue through the process. So looking at the business plan models, we divided into three concepts, three models. The current model really is centered around the current operations, current staffing levels, and current fee structures. The enhanced model has some targeted improvements, and Elevate really is that model to look at the highest cost recovery. As I said, the current operations use the current fee schedules as of 2025, the current expected attendance and revenues, and expected expenditures and staff costs. The goal here is to maintain stable service levels while allowing for some limited growth. The enhanced plan is about targeted improvements. So we have some enhanced fee schedules to meet some of the area rates. It does have the current expected attendance and some enhanced revenue and the current expected expenditures and staff costs. This focus is really on community-centered growth and increasing the operational efficiencies. The Elevate plan is, again, going to yield the highest cost recovery. This involves optimized fee schedules to meet those goals. It does have the current expected attendance rates and optimized revenue, again, to meet those goals. Right now, we are still looking at the current expected expenditures and staff costs. Those will be analyzed further throughout the process, but right now we have just focused on getting these three plans in place and providing some initial feedback on some of the program fees. When we look at the aquatics program and system as a whole, this chart reflects all three facilities combined together. In the current aquatics model, as was requested by staff, plunge is not included as the plunge is not in operation currently. But as you can see, cost recovery increases with each model, and Elevate has the highest increase in cost recovery and fees that we'll see reflected in the net revenue. Again, right now, we're not showing any increases in attendance, but we are showing some gradual increases in fees between the three operating models. so everybody knows what some of these line items are, classes and camps are some of those specialty classes, contract instructor classes, lifeguarding classes, and swim camps. The swim lesson line item has all swim lesson programming. And we have all of the swim team rental revenue reflected in here, along with what it would look like with some of these fee changes. Again, please keep in mind, none of this has been approved. These are just ideas and initial thoughts. When it comes to operating costs, here you can see the operating costs across all three facilities lumped together. Personnel is flat between Enhanced and Elevate, with some increases in operating expenses due to some increases in programming. So these next slides are going to dive into the Hilltop and El Segundo Aquatic Center business plans specifically, and then we'll end with the plunge. Hilltop is a pretty simple model at this point. As it's at its highest, it is only going to recover about 16% of its costs. Currently, there is no fee for El Segundo residents, and in the Enhance and Elevate models, we do have a $3 fee for residents. Expenses stay flat at Hilltop across all three models at this point. There's no major changes in operations or in staffing, so there's no changes really reflected in the expenses for the facility. For the El Segundo Aquatic Center, the cost recovery increases across all three models to hit that 90% mark that was suggested by council back in April. Again, keep in mind, we've only looked at some fees at this point. We have not looked at expense efficiencies. That will be looked at in this next round. Swim lessons also are still included in the El Segundo Aquatic Center operating revenues at this point. They have not been moved to the plunge in these models. That will be discussed with staff, and we'll provide a operating plan for moving swim lessons and other programs over to plunge, and how that would increase availability over at the El Segundo Aquatic Center. What I wanted to point out with the operating revenues currently is that at current estimates, the user group teams are paying about 21% of what it costs to operate that lane per hour. Our current estimates are at about $84 per lane per hour. Again, that can change as we look at expense efficiencies and making some changes there. But where we're at right now, this is where it sits. If moving to the Enhance operating model, the user groups would pay 36% of the current cost per lane hour, and at the Elevate model, they would pay 50% of the current cost per lane hour. So still not recovering all of those costs to operate that lane, but there is slight increases that's there. With swim lessons, as we discussed earlier, there is a lot of room for some increase to swim lesson fees. So we showed a 50% increase to swim lesson fees for the Enhance model and a 100% increase to swim lesson fees in the Elevate model. There is an increase in operating expenses across all three models. The There is some increases to water aerobics participation that we've included in the Enhance and Elevate, adding in water aerobics and the sweat programs, which currently have not had any users. Also looking at proportional increases to program supplies and an increase to advertising in relation to attendance. Currently, the city is spending about 8 cents per attendee at the facility in advertising. The enhanced model would increase that to 50 cents per attendee, and the Elevate model will increase that to $1 per attendee.
So are you saying that's the amount we spend, or you're proposing we spend on just advertising events or
That's
swim
correct.
lessons?
Events, programs, any advertising for the aquatic facility. Next, we'll discuss the plunge business plan. Again, in the current operating model, there is no revenues and no expenses, as plunge is not currently in operation. For the Enhance and Elevate, what we've done is looked at a per cap attendance and membership fee model. I didn't want anyone to get hung up on the actual fee schedule yet, since that had not really been discussed, but we'll have that for the next meeting. But we do look at increasing fees for the Enhance and the Elevate model to show a roughly $6.60 per cap for the Enhance and about $7.34 for the Elevate. This would help to offset some of those operating costs. As with the El Segundo Aquatic Center, we also are showing increases to swim lesson fees. Those are the same fees that you see at El Segundo Aquatic Center. And so Enhance would be a 50% increase and Elevate would be a 100% increase. Again, user groups have not been added to this model at this time. That will be done in the next round. When it comes to operating expenses, one of the first things we looked at is the staffing for the plunge. And so in this model, or in these three models, the aquatic supervisor that is currently over at the El Segundo Aquatic Center would move over to the plunge as their office. And the plunge would have an additional aquatics coordinator added to the staff to help with coordinating programs, memberships, and those programs. When it comes to part-time staff, there'd be 1 senior lifeguard, 3 lifeguards, 1 senior rec leader, and 1 rec leader at all times that the pool is open. As with the other models, when it comes to advertising, we're looking at a 50% of attendance for the Enhanced model and a 100% for the Elevate model. So in summary, the next steps for the business plan are to continue the analysis and get to a endpoint for the 3 operating models. At that point, we'll have some discussions and narrow that down to 1 approved operating model. And that likely is going to be some sort of combination of the 3. We'll continue to review expenses and propose some efficiency recommendations. We'll review program changes with the addition of the plunge and look at moving some swim lessons or swim lesson programs as a whole over to the plunge, and then what sort of space that's going to free up for additional user group use at the aquatic center. We'll continue to look at, we'll continue the market analysis, looking at other comparable programs in a larger area throughout the region. We'll look at additional fee structures, including rentals, other program fees, and more daily fees. And we will present next time the lane allocation program. So at this time, what we wanted from council and what the aquatics team wanted from council is, are there any changes that are needed to the current work plan? Are we on the right track? Is there something that needs to be really upended or moved in a different direction? Are there any changes to the definitions of success? And if there's any additional information that we can provide or that needs to be included in the next round, happy to hear those comments. Thank you so much for having me. Happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. Miklos, Director Mancini, any comments before we go to council questions?
No, I think that this is, like I said, this is a 50% where we're at. I've already had feedback from different people and some things that I know we need to look into further. One of the things that we talked about today was looking at the management of our expenses. And I talked with Joe, our aquatic supervisor, who's here this evening, and there are some different models that other municipal pools use wherein they don't have lifeguards on deck when there are competitive groups in the pool, when there are user groups in the pool. That's a significant savings, cost savings. However, what that does to our liability, I don't know. We'd have to consult with the city attorney, but that's one big cost savings that we can look at. The other sort of elephant in the room is the amount of time that the high school is using the pool, and that there's currently no agreement in place where they pay for any of that use. So those are just a couple of other things that have come up in the last week that we've sort of started talking about, but certainly would love to hear more feedback.
There is an agreement with the high school for the pool, right? When we built it, there was an agreement about.
Yeah, it's equipment fees, right? That they pay into ESAC and equipment fees.
And $1 million to the plunge.
Well, they pay, right, correct.
$1 million
They gave
to
us-
plunge construction.
Correct.
They made an upfront payment of $400,000 towards equipment for the aquatic center, and then additionally, and now it's happened, $1 million promise that is now, I guess, a payment towards the
Construction of plunge.
So that was in exchange for, there is I don't know exactly how often the meetings take place, but there are meetings between the El Segundo Unified and Wiseburn that allocates the usage of those two schools, and they have priority over other uses.
They're currently using 20 lanes for 3 hours a day throughout the year. So, it's a significant amount of use.
And that's at ESAC.
What was that?
That's at ESAC.
Correct, yes. Yes.
All right, council comments and questions.
Let me just ask if we have consensus. I'm of the belief that ESAC should be focused on cost recovery, and the plunge should be more of a subsidized recreational learn to swim type of venue, if that's possible. That was in the earlier slides. I want to know if we can just give that kind of policy overview of what we want to see come back, or if there's a discussion to have on if anyone feels differently then.
I think without providing necessarily monetary guidance, I think philosophically, yes, plunge, community pool, ESAC, competitive use, which has a higher cost recovery.
Can I add a
Please go ahead,
caveat to
Councilmember
that,
Gov.
though? So, personal experience, I remember that at the plunge, when I had little water polo players like are here tonight, that evening time slot was great for them because it's not weather dependent. It could potentially be earlier. So while, yes, again, philosophically, I agree with that, I think our ultimate goal is reducing expenses overall. And my biggest jumping ahead issue with this is that there's no conversation about hours and utilization hours. And I think we need an audit for each pool of what that looks like with the goal of minimizing expenses across the board, if that makes sense.
No, I don't disagree, but let me clarify. Rec swimming to me is not a club program, whether at ESAC or at the plunge. If you are in a group that you're paying money to a private club, swim, water polo, whatever, to me that's not rec swim.
Correct.
Rec swim is our citizens wanting to go use the pool, wanting to swim, renting it for a birthday party. Those are the type of activities that I think we should be subsidizing. If you sign your kid up to play in a professional club and you're paying a monthly fee to an organization, that organization should not be subsidized.
Yes. With the, we have to have some supply and demand like analysis here. I mean, we can't just say
Oh, and I'm not saying it's
70%,
100%
'cause
cost
that's
recovery.
what-
but
Yeah,
we
and I
need to know
think
what
he
the
indicated
costs
that that market analysis and where we sit on the Laffer curve of that is part two of this. Of when you hit you sweat an asset so much no one uses it. Sorry, Councilmember Giroux, I'm sure you're sweating over there. You ready?
I think you guys should go first, because I got a book load.
Okay, we'll let him simmer.
Ally, we used to do programming at the Pledge. Have you provided that information to Mikos that he can look at historically what we've done over there?
Yes, so we've had meetings with him about that.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think, to your point, I think that that goal of cost recovery is really important, is gonna help drive how we allocate the space based on, what the temperature is with the council on that. I think that's where we're struggling.
That's why I wanted to start there. I think our job is to give you some type of policy, and then you can go forth and do the analysis and say, can we hit that? If you want us to hit 80%,
this.
your swim lesson's $500 an hour, no one's gonna
Correct.
do that, right?
Yes.
And then we've got to deal with that reality.
Yes.
But if we can
Yes.
give you that overarching policy, and then you're the one who's gonna do the programming, figure out what we've done in the past, what we're gonna offer in the future, and then we can
Correct,
fill it
and
in.
come back to you with that information, but
Oh, yeah.
that's kind of has to be our starting point.
So it's not necessarily plunge versus ESAC. It's really rec swim versus club rental.
I'm
And wherever
fine
that's
with that.
Wherever that
accommodated
happens.
across the board.
Yeah, to a degree, I just think that the rub will be the plunge, right? Because rec swim will be biasing the plunge, and competitive swim, in theory, with some allowance for age groups and things, will bias heavily ESAC.
Correct.
I know that when we were first building ESAC, we did some analysis that was like, you'd have to rent it for 340 days to get 100% cost recovery. So I think we have to manage expectations unless we get Olympic teams using it about where the price point will be on it.
Right.
I do have a one other philosophical point going forward, is that we do want kids to learn how to swim.
Yep.
So the idea of like trying to come to some optimum point on swim lessons, I think we're fine as a city subsidizing swim lessons. We want kids to swim. They used to swim at the public school. Swim lessons used to be part of the curriculum. We want kids to be swimmers. I'll shut my mouth.
Can I ask a follow-up question just to your point, Mayor? So when you're saying you want the swim lessons subsidized?
Well, I'm just saying that the idea of like bringing up swim lessons to an optimum threshold of acceptability of like $11 an hour, I don't think is where we want to be. We want
Got
to
it.
keep optimum participation.
Thank you. Yes.
Ally, thanks. Isn't every program subsidized to a
Yes.
degree? Okay, so I just want to be clear. We're subsidizing absolutely everything that happens in
Yes.
aquatics.
Yes.
So
To be
the
fair,
level,
Mr. Mayor,
the
taxpayers
level,
they subsidize it to begin. This is their money that built the pool too.
yeah, but there's subsistence at every level. So when we say subsidize, what are we actually talking about? I think it's degrees of
Degrees of
subsidies that we
subsidy.
need to be
Correct.
clear about.
Correct.
Because fundamentally, I agree, we should be encouraging swimming. We should be encouraging swim lessons, and those that are paying for that next level, aquatic clubs, for example, should pay more. But even in the Elevate, I'm not clear on a couple things either. One is OpEx increases in all three. In each scenario, as you go up, the OpEx increases. How is that possible?
Miklos,
Because the
can you-
attendance is flat.
Right. Can you answer that question?
There are some slight increases in programming, which increases some of the programming staff costs and programming.
I guess what I'm not clear on is same attendance, all three models.
Right. It's showing the same number of people in the
staffing
pool.
ratios.
Right.
What's fundamentally changing?
There's
Is
a
it just what we're
advertisement
recovering?
cost, too,
Yeah,
which-
but that's not going to be significant. Like, what is fundamentally changing here?
Right. So is anything changing in those models, or is it just that we're raising the costs?
Currently, right now, it has just been costs. There will be larger changes in the next round.
Okay. First of all, if we wanted a business plan that just included getting cost recovery based on increasing cost, the five of us could have done that. That's not what we're looking for. I'm not going to disagree with anything my colleagues have already said, because I think I agree with all of it. I got a problem with the presentation. And I don't know if it's because we didn't give you the right input or we just went off the rails. And I'm going to start with the data set on what pools you're actually looking at for pricing. Can you pull that up?
Can you go back to that slide?
Why are we looking at LA County pools?
Go back to
We don't compete with that. We compete with, and Mr. Heck, please correct me if I'm wrong, Miracosta, Redondo, Torrance Aquatic Center, and to a small extent, Hawthorne. That's it. Not even Culver City. That's who we're competing with. Am I about right? Okay. Nothing else in there. City of Santa Monica, no one from Santa Monica, for the most part, I say no one. Very, very, very small percentage. We're not grabbing from there. Okay, you're grabbing from the South Bay in this area. That's where you're grabbing from. So you want to keep Santa Monica in there because you need another data point, fine. But honestly, you're competing with Torrance, Redondo, Costa. And Redondo and Costa aren't even in there. So that's my first problem, is that your data sets are incorrect. And I mentioned this previously. So maybe that didn't get to to Councilman Hunsaker, I'm not sure, but that's a problem. So the stakeholder piece, all right? So here's the thing, you're asking people for what they want, right? But what we've charged you with is, how do we get cost recovery on ESAC, and how do we get cost recovery on the plunge? That's really what we're looking at. I mean, I am sure the first thing that the group said, because I know these guys way too well, is, you know what, we could do great if we had more pool time.
Right.
Every single one of them is going to say that. I completely get that. So I think our biggest problem here is that what are we trying to solve with this? Because this isn't a business plan. This is a projection modeling on, I don't even know, on a huge price increase. So I honestly think that you almost have to start back at jump, because I think you really have to look at what are the fees that we should be charging based on the right data set. Like, what's that look like? That's number one, okay? Number two, how do we maximize the usage with the current user groups that we have? Like, what can we do? What are we not doing that we could look at? All right, you know, it's a Tetris puzzle. I get it. I know what it's like. My kid played in all these programs, so I know how hard it is. But are we maximizing it? Are there other ways we can look at that, right? How do we do that? Because that's really what, you know, the city, like the whole thing about success criteria. Okay, but really, as a city, what are we looking at? Who's paying the time to be in the pool? Right? That's what we're looking at for the user groups. When we talk about recreational swimming and swimming lessons, I get it. That's a whole different conversation. I'm really kind of talking about that. We got to maximize the time we have. What are the challenges? What are some ideas to overcome them? That's what I want to see, right? Because that's, you know, and then the third part is, what extra can we add from that? Are there tournaments? Are there things? Is there anything else that we can bring in? The filming thing, the therapy. That's great ideas. But really, when it comes down to it, it's just those three things. The rest of this is just puff. I'm sorry. The whole demographic thing and all that, what does that have to do with this? We know who our customer is. We already know it. We've been open for 5 years. We know it. Also, I'd like to add, we talk about the plunge. The plunge costs more to build than ESAC did. So the cost recovery in that thing is gonna be tough. But I agree. I think we said at the beginning, let's try to go for, I think we said a 50% cost recovery. That might not work, but it's a great goal. Hilltop, I don't even remember talking about Hilltop. I'm not even sure how that got in here. I'm not even sure what we can do there. I think that was just thrown in because it was a pool we have in the city. But honestly, Hilltop is just, I don't know, to me, the way you're going to affect an outcome is ESAC and the plunge. And we're just getting other things thrown into the pile here that aren't going to really move the needle. So again, I'm not sure where we went off the rails. Now, the whole thing is that when you say this is 50%, it scares the heck out of me. Because that means we've spent 50% of the money that we had allocated towards this third party to do this analysis, right? And we haven't even looked at any of the things I just talked about. We haven't looked at where the groups are going to be. And by the way, the kids are right. Trust me, I remember having a 12-year-old out until 10 o'clock at night, and there was a whole argument about swim and water polo, and that's make it fair. That's something I think we all can agree upon. The plunge might be part of that, where, hey, you can move the younger kids into the indoor pool. Whatever it is, figure it out, but I think you have direction there. I am really struggling with this presentation, and I don't know if it was because we did something wrong or what, but if it was, I'll take the hit for it. I don't think we're that close right now to any kind of resolution, and that pool opens up at the end of this year, the plunge.
I think we need some direction from the council on what those things are. I think we hear that we want to maximize the lanes. That's clear. We've heard it from, that is a goal. But we cannot determine how to do that until we understand what the cost recovery expectation is.
Right, but we gave the cost recovery expectation. We said we want to go up to about, what is it, 80 or 90% on one and 50% on the other, and do a model for that. We did say that.
90% and 50%.
Right, but that can't just be,
right.
Let me raise the rates by X percent in order to hit it. You know, for example, are there groups that are taking advantage of lanes? You know, I know I'm going to say this because I know I've heard it all.
Right.
We don't want to ruffle feathers.
No, we don't.
Well, start ruffling them, because otherwise you're going to have me ruffling them up here. All right? If there are bad players in the game or bad actors and adverse to good actors, then why are we throwing everybody into the same pool? Pun intended. Okay? If there are bad actors that A, aren't paying bills on time, B, are underreporting their numbers, stop letting it go. It's been 5 years of this stuff. If we're doing that, I'm not saying we're doing it, I'm saying if we're doing that. Okay? I'm just saying that these are the types of things that we can actually affect. Not this. From my point of view, I'm one of 5, so I think I've said enough for right now.
One thing that I don't know if has been factored into is expectations on what the value of a rec park card is. When the plunge was open previously, rec park card, I don't know, was it $1 a swim if you had a rec park card or something like that? Or it was free for a while, then I think it was $1 once and they were fixing it. I don't know, it was free. But if there's some sort of tiered card where here's your rec park card for the year, but if you want swim access, it's $10 more or something like that, I would add that in, just because that has not been a part of the current puzzle and hasn't been since the plunge has been closed.
So are we 90% ESAC, 50% plunge?
I mean, I know that that's the goal, but I think what we're looking for is tell us why that's achievable, why that's not, what has to happen, like the whole big robust picture. Okay, you want 90%. These are the things that you need to do, and then we have to decide if we're willing to do those things. It is not just increase costs to get to that number, if that makes sense. That's,
Councilmember Boyles.
We get that.
Okay, first question is, if we're making everything contingent on cost recovery, at least for now, how confident are we in these plunge numbers? I know we're gonna have an HVAC center or facility, HVAC in general. How confident? We're not operating, were these just based on previous performance? Okay, but was there consideration for energy uptick now that we've got HVAC and all that stuff? So we're feeling pretty good about these numbers. So couldn't we go out and do some performas that suggest, here's what the market demands, to Councilmember Giroux's point about what open swim, here's how many people we think we're gonna get for open swim, here's what we think the market will bear, what we think is fair, here's what we think we're gonna get for the youth water polo that's gonna come over to the plunge because it's gonna be earlier in the evening. Come up with some revenue and then look at this like a true P&L performer. What's the revenue, what's the cost versus this convoluted government method of cost recovery. This is, to me, I understand why some of us are struggling with the picture here. It would be helpful to have an idea of what we can expect in revenue assumptions based on some market data. I don't think that'd be too hard. You know what the plunge had before, right, in terms of attendance? I think that's in here. But it's hard to digest as it's presented in this manner, in my opinion.
Any further direction?
No, I would just clarify
Mayor Pro Tem?
that you can't say 90% ESAC and plunge, it's who's using it.
Mhm.
Is it a resident? Is it a park program that we're putting on that we're trying to get people to come to? Or is it an outside group that has their club members using our facilities? I think that's kind of the line. And we may not get 90%, and that's okay. We just want to know what the math is. So when we do our budget, we know how much we're going to have to put into running the aquatics program.
Mhm.
So is there anything else you need from us?
I'm going to turn it over to the consultant and see if he's, do you have any feedback, Miklos, or anything else you need to hear from them?
So I got one more thing, just real quick. Between the 3 pools, right, if I looked at that correctly, the management operation total is about $3 million a year.
Currently?
Yeah. Is that about right, Joe?
Is that right?
No, I think it was like 4.
So $4 million in costs for our pools. By the way, this is why cities don't own pools. We own 3. All right? To get 4 million, so even to get 75% total cost recovery, we got to generate $3 million in rentals. Just kind of let that sit for a second. And I know you didn't make those decisions, Ms. Mancini. We did.
That's okay.
All right. I'm just saying that, you know, this is, it's a pretty steep mountain to climb. We're going to have to figure out as a council what we're comfortable with as a total for aquatic subsidizing. I think that's maybe, is that a better way to do it? To sit there and say, instead of taking 3 separate things, saying, how do you get a total cost recovery of around 60%?
Right. That would be easier.
Would that be easier, or would that be a better way to do it? I don't know.
Maybe. We don't have programming or anything at Hilltop, right? It's just a drop-in.
Right. I mean, we have some swim lessons. We have swim lessons, but not, I mean, Hilltop's not going to move the
Can you
needle.
play splash ball there?
It's the other 2.
Okay.
That'd be great, actually.
Yeah. I think
Adult
it's
splash ball.
The other 2.
Adult splash ball. Hilltop.
And I know this is maybe a little nitpicky, but the dollar assigned per attendee for advertising, I mean, swim lessons are always full. You know, that money should be spent towards events, tournaments, trying to get in new business. I don't think we need to spend any marketing dollars on getting our swim lessons full.
There's always a waiting list for swim lessons. It's never
Always.
it's never a problem.
Right.
Just so I'm clear though, we're already at 50%, right? I mean, we're expecting
Yes.
basically 4 million in costs and we're at 2 million in revenue right now. So we don't have that far to go
Right.
to get to 75%. We got to find another $1 million.
And I think we can do that.
Yeah.
I think we can do that. I think this is very helpful. It's tricky to bring something at 50% because there's a lot of stuff we have not explored yet. So, but I think we hear the direction. And Miklos, do you have any, I mean, this is really important that you understand what they're looking for. So I want to make sure.
Yes. At this time, thank you very much for the comments. I'm going to digest them. I don't have any additional questions at this time, but I will direct any to Allie in the future.
Okay, and I just wanted to circle back with you, Lance. Redondo and Miracosta are the 2 that you want.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to look at it, it's Redondo, it's Miracosta, and it's Torrance Aquatic Center.
And Hawthorne.
I think we have Torrance.
Hawthorne pools for
Hawthorne is
there's
legit. Hawthorne's up there, I think.
Yeah, we have
Hawthorne's up
Hawthorne.
there.
Okay.
Okay.
But the ones I don't see, you see City of Torrance, is
Yeah.
that their plunge, or, because City of Torrance has Torrance Aquatic Center,
think that's
and they have their own plunge.
Isn't that, I think that's the plunge, but we'll check and we'll bring those back. And we'll
I'm
take
looking
the
at that
others out.
cost, it's probably
And
their
who
plunge.
just opened one?
Their
Didn't
aquatic center is more expensive than ours, I think.
Gardena just opened one too, right? Or is digging one? I don't remember.
Yeah, but I don't think I mean, honestly, if you're down in that Gardena area, you're more competing with Long Beach pools down there than you are up here. Here, it's really, that is kind of the gist of it. That's where people are gonna go. So just, that's your data set.
Perfect. And then can I ask a question too? Is there any concern about, do we want to make ourselves competitive with private? Are we just looking at those
Private what?
swim facilities that are offering lessons? Do we, they're charging $40 an hour, we're charging $6.
We're a city facility, I
Okay.
think we gotta look at that.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Okay.
Agree.
Good deal.
All right, anything further from the council? Guidance is given. Do we have consensus to receive and file this now that we've given guidance? There we go.
Thank you.
I think consensus is given. Thank you, Director Mancini. Thank you, Miklos.
Thank you.
All right, back to the future to item 9. Oh, Councilmember Boyes got something? Nope, sorry. Approval of proposed scope of work for citywide staffing assessment request for proposals. Director Allen, oh, there you are.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, members of the City Council. Before you tonight, well, before I get started, I just want to acknowledge our CFO, who's not here at the moment, and Rebecca Reddick, our HR Director, who helped put together some of the scope here with me. But before we get into the discussion, the reason why we're bringing this before you today is because of a ask that was made at the budget study session in May and following up in June with the adoption of the budget. The city is initiating a comprehensive citywide staffing assessment, critical for ensuring that our workforce moving forward is structured and resourced appropriately to deliver public services efficiently and effectively. We're seeking direction tonight, specifically from City Council, to move forward with the draft RFP as proposed and written in the agenda packet, with a total current budget allocation that was adopted in the fiscal year 25-26 budget of $100,000, based on some soft quotes that Paul and I received. But of course, if we do receive proposals that come in higher than that, and they do wind up as a finalist, we may have to ask for additional funds, but we are starting with the expectation that proposals should come in around $100,000. Like many cities, El Segundo faces ongoing challenges with evolving community needs, technological advancements, budgetary constraints, staff turnover, and overall changing operational demands that could create misalignment in staffing and staffing allocation. So this assessment aims to evaluate our current resources, department and position structures, workload distribution, and overall staffing levels to identify any inefficiencies, potential over or understaffing, and opportunities for the reorganization for process improvement. Conducting the assessment now is particularly relevant due to several upcoming infrastructure projects, the need to modernize our current city services, and projected budgetary pressures, which we reviewed during the budget forecasting. It will help optimize operational effectiveness, financial sustainability, and ensure our own agility in responding to the future needs of our residents and constituents. The RFP that was attached to the agenda packet outlines a comprehensive scope for the selected consultants, focusing on key areas to optimize their workforce and operations, with emphasis on selecting a firm with both public and private sector experience. The RFP includes an organizational assessment, reviewing our current departmental structures, benchmark performance measures against peer agencies, analyzing staffing levels, reporting relationships, and identifying any redundancies or gaps in our services. The goal ultimately is to streamline functions to clarify the span of control, or also ensuring that there's optimal staffing configuration between management and subordinates, and improve internal coordination. Additionally, operational efficiency review, examining the business processes and internal controls and our various service delivery models, assessing the technology that we use, and identifying opportunities for automation or modernization. The last two components, the fiscal and cost savings review, will identify strategies to reduce operating costs while maintaining the high level of service quality that we're known for, including evaluating contract services for potential insourcing of services or renegotiation with contract vendors. The deliverable will include a consultant presentation to City Council with their actionable recommendations and an implementation plan, timelines, priorities, budgeting, resource requests at a future date. With that, staff's requesting any discussion or direction from City Council regarding the proposed scope, amendments, additions, modifications. With that, happy to answer any questions.
Council questions, comments?
In the RFP on page 13, Exhibit A is an org chart, but it just is basically City Hall, City Manager, and every executive. Would it be beneficial to give a little more information about how we staff, what those programs are in this RFP, to get back something with a little more meat from people who want this work?
Absolutely. Today I was just reviewing it with the purchasing agent for the city. We thought that maybe direct link to the city's adopted budget, since it has a lot of that, or the narrative. And so absolutely, we can swap out that exhibit with something more relevant and informative from the adopted budget itself.
Right, because the point of this is really getting the nitty gritty and say, hey, are we overstaffed? Are we understaffed? What can we do better? Where can we be more efficient? Just giving the executive pecking order is like, well, that's every city. You could swap out El Segundo for any city there. It doesn't really give any information about who we are, the services we provide and how we go about doing that.
Understood.
Yeah, I agree. The staffing chart was the first thing I asked for when I joined city council.
me too.
And it's the hardest thing to procure somehow. So I think that would be really helpful. I don't have any questions about the content of the RFP. Questions for me, maybe I missed this, but who reviews the RFPs and what's the selection process like? And then also, do groups know what our target budget is going into it?
The quick and easy is that they can know what the target budget is. They can look at the adopted budget. I bet one of them will ask during the Q&A period during the RFP process. So they can know, and they will know if they do ask. The reviewing panel itself has not been established yet. I imagine Daryl and I probably have to talk, but it would be made up of probably members of the executive team to conduct that analysis. There's a scoring rubric in the RFP itself that totals in 100 points, divvied up by the various scopes of work that we're asking for. And so that panel would then review it, score it, come to some consensus, and then present that to council. That's the traditional process unless there's some other direction tonight.
Thank you.
Mr. Allen, are you doing any reference checks with other clients?
We will do reference checks.
Okay,
we
great.
do ask for references.
Thank you.
Would this include a review of staffing of police and fire?
It's currently drafted to include everybody, and I think maybe we have to have a future conversation. There are other departments that have gone through assessments, but it's currently drafted to include citywide, all departments.
Okay.
Anything further? All right, we've discussed and provided direction. I don't think there's anything else to do.
I think we technically need a vote to authorize.
Do we
us
need to
issue
authorize
the
it? I don't think
RFP.
that it says, oh wait, we do need a motion to approve.
I'll move
the proposed
approval.
scope of work. There we go. Boyle's on the first.
I'll second.
Hey, Mayor Pro Tem on the second. All in favor?
Aye.
No one is opposed, no one is abstained. It passes. All right. Item 11, committees, commissions, and board presentations. We have a lot of new members of our committees, commissions, and boards. So I will read these into the record. Madam Clerk, are you ready?
I am.
And a special thank you. Volunteerism is what makes this city go, and a number of these people have given their time for a lot of years. So one, Dave Lubes to Rec and Parks Commission. He is a full term to expire May 30th of 2029. Bob Moda, Rec and Parks Commission, full term to expire May 30th, 2029. Michael Sheps, Arts and Culture Advisory Committee, full term to expire June 30th, 2028. John Pickhaver returns to Arts and Culture Advisory Committee, full term to expire June 30th, 2028. LaRuth Wright, new member, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, partial term to expire October 31st, Halloween 2027. Audrey Davis joins the Library Board of Trustees with her full term to expire June 30th, 2028. James Fenton joins the Library Board of Trustees, full term to expire June 30th, 2028. Paul Landy will continue on the Senior Citizen Housing Corporation Board. That term is extended to August 31st of this year. Same for Julia Newman, will continue on the Senior Citizen Housing Corporation Board. The term also extended to August 31st of 2025. Again, thank you to those volunteers who give willingly their time and get nothing for it, really, except our thanks and a better city. Sometimes chips. Okay, City Clerk, your reports.
I have no report this evening.
Council member reports. Councilmember Keldorf, you have an item, the Major Events Ad Hoc Committee. Go for it.
I mean, go figure. I'm going to cede my time to Director Allen with the appreciation that, you know, council comes up with ideas and then asks staff to implement it. So he's going to take us through a presentation of the Major Events Committee update.
This is the first time time has been ceded in years. So look at this. We're going deep in the rules of order.
Thank you.
Look at that. Well done.
Thank you, Councilmember Keldorf. The council's discussed this several times, and again, I'd like to acknowledge the efforts of Barbara and Allie and Allie's staff, Joe, he was looking dapper earlier, who've really been helpful in continuing this conversation inside City Hall. And I think with the establishment of this ad hoc committee, it'll be a good opportunity to collaborate outside of City Hall within the community. We know that there are several major events upcoming in the next few years. First and foremost, the FIFA World Cup, hosting in North America in 1 year from now, actually, the next summer, which will include a total of 8 matches here locally in Los Angeles, specifically the SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, with an expected attendance across North America of almost 7 million visitors, and a local spending projection of $343 million on various goods and services while visitors are here in town. Following that, we know that the Super Bowl is coming in 2027 back to LA with an expected spending impact of almost $600 million. It is usually it's a one-day event, but there is a week-long activities and events happening with that, and that is also happening at SoFi 7 miles down the road. And we think that there might be opportunities there to capitalize as we have in the past, and with this sort of larger effort, maybe other ways that we can complement or expand on what we've done in the past. And lastly, where I think the impetus of the idea came from was really this more regional effort from the 88 cities in LA County to better prepare for hosting the Los Angeles Olympics in 2028. Not all the cities are hosting games. They're predominantly happening in LA and Long Beach and Carson, and a few sprinkled further eastward and northward. But many cities are within the routes. They're close proximity to those venues, and so they're attacking this from more of a larger opportunity for cultural exchange. There's good examples out there of cities already getting primed up to host events and have viewing parties and sponsoring or co-sponsoring or partnering with visiting countries, or could be delegations from visiting countries. And so El Segundo, I think, given our location, our proximity, the 405, the 105, the Sea Line, LAX, and the sort of the north-south and east-west conduits to Long Beach and the Sepulveda Basin, downtown, the Coliseum, Carson, is primed for having some ancillary overflow of even just naturally our hotels, our restaurants, and possibly a great opportunity to really activate and engage with our community and potential visitors. Paris saw over 12 million visitors. They're expecting about the same for Los Angeles. They also saw several, and I have a follow-up video, but they all saw over 30 nations hosted a hospitality host event in the Paris Olympic area where everything occurred. More well-known at the moment because it was publicized by Culver City, New Zealand. They are planning a hospitality host in downtown Culver City. It's not something that nobody's reached out, but this is just an example of what could be done. Our AV doesn't work, so.
Unique part of the Olympic experience that's back for the first time since the pandemic. Hospitality houses hosted by countries all over the world, giving fans in Paris a unique way to go globe-trotting without leaving the host city. Think of it as the ultimate house party for the biggest fans of the Olympics.
Going to an Olympics, spending a day or half a day just visiting the houses is something that I truly enjoy and make sure I do every single Olympics I go to.
Ken Hanscom is currently attending his 4th Olympic Games and has become an expert in knowing the ins and outs of the fan experience.
What these houses are, they're a place that fans gather. There's oftentimes cultural aspects to them, whether there's installations, videos, special food, special drink.
Club France went all out for its home Olympics with indoor and outdoor screens set up to watch the action. Famous French luxury brands showcasing their role at the games, and plenty for fans of all ages to do. Over at the Team Netherlands house, wearing orange is a must, but the entertainment is worth the €30 price of admission. Formerly known as the Heineken House, the atmosphere lives up to the reputation of being the party venue of the games. Other countries take a more subtle approach. Hidden at the Marriott Champs-Élysées, New Zealand invites fans free of charge to come hang out and enjoy the games.
I think there's close to 26 houses, so it is probably the largest selection of houses that we've seen.
Hey everyone, big heads up, Paleo Valley's running a sale on all their meat sticks right now. You can get
Let's do it. Glad that's what it was.
So not a plug for meat sticks. But as you can see, there's several different examples of how local agencies and municipalities, although may not be hosting games themselves, can take advantage of activating their spaces, engaging with the community, engaging with visitors and visiting teams. Our proximity and access, which I covered, just and you saw in the video some of the examples with the luxury brands. You know, we have an incredible inventory of star power when it comes to our you know, sort of Fortune 500 or Fortune 100 companies locally, and not to mention our professional sports teams are also something worth highlighting and exposing during this opportunity with the community. And also our facilities. We just got done having a great conversation about our aquatic center, and the city's already receiving phone calls regarding use of our aquatic center leading up to and during the Olympics, and we'll probably continue to receive those phone calls, and so that's some of the discussion tonight and ask of council, as well as getting the green light to proceed with those conversations. That'll likely require a separate agreement with that visiting country or that visiting team to utilize our facility for either exclusive use for a block of time or all day or whatever that might look like, and so that's part of tonight's ask as well. It's also an opportunity to really look at enhancing our infrastructure if there's funding, and you know, Elias's shop in Public Works is working hard. They've been working hard over many years, unrelated to this effort, to ensuring that our capital improvement program is up to date, and there's a continuous investment in those systems and those services to our community. But in the next 3 years, if there are other opportunities that come up to partner with a COG or another agency or another funding source like Metro to implement transportation improvements dedicated towards or with a leaning towards providing enhanced services or accessibility to venues or to hubs where there's going to be bus transit to and from venues, since the LA Olympics is going as to a no-build and public transportation only event. So there may be opportunities down the road to explore funding opportunities as well as transportation improvements. As well as, you know, just daylighted in the video, but hosting community events in general. And this can look a lot like facilitating private events to facilitating our own city-sponsored or co-sponsored events with either our local business community, our residents, or visiting teams, or the U.S. Olympic team if the opportunity arises. But really what it does is that it fosters that sense of an environment that the Olympics is not just happening somewhere here in LA. We can make the Olympics happen here in El Segundo. So with the committee's ultimate purpose is to really start proactive planning today. If there are going to be activations, there's going to be resource requests, and this is not funding that we're able to ask in this year's budget cycle. It'll have to be something that's asked in the next 2 budget cycles. So that proactive planning and engagement and resource allocation requests have to begin now. That analysis has to start now. The committee can serve as a liaison between council and staff and the business community, the chamber and the residents. And it really can ensure that we're not behind the 8 ball 2 years from now thinking we shoulda, coulda. If we're able to start the conversation now, it allows us enough runway to be able to facilitate some of these things to actually happen. The key focus areas, obviously economic opportunities, the infrastructure, transportation, community engagement, but also just any temporary policy development or policy measures that we can consider as a community, and address any public safety. We're not talking about public safety for the Olympics itself, but any resources or public safety components that might go along with if we're hosting a team or if we're having an event. With the action of the 4 commissions, I think that had members, or 3 commissions, and the volunteering of Marcia Hansen from the Chamber and Tessie Rasmussen as a community member. We're also delegating Councilmember Keldorf, the city manager or his designee, along with the Commissioner Melissa McCaverty, Kelly Watson, and Michael Sheps as part of the committee members. So part of tonight's action is also finally memorializing the members of this committee. So with that, leave it to the council here for questions. Thank you.
Council questions?
Just thank you for putting together a much prettier presentation and thorough than I could have done, so appreciate you.
Great idea. Thank you for volunteering. And yeah, I have no comments. I look forward to what you bring back.
I have one small good idea fairy piece, and that is with the transition of the Green Line to connect with the K, north and south. That's an ample opportunity for us to maximize our hotel guests getting to that train and being able to get up to the venues, north and south. So with that, we had looked previously at shuttle services, different kinds of shuttle services that could service to the train lines and to some of our downtown areas, or from the hotels to our downtown areas. Things like Circuit, those little golf cart trains that would happily, they pay their own way based on advertising on the side. I think there's an opportunity to get people to those trains and have something that'll be a self-sustaining sort of revenue piece. So that's my good idea fairy contribution. But with that, Madam Clerk, can we take all of these items at once? The approve, authorize, and authorize? Yes. All in one? Okay, well, first we have consensus then. Yes. All right, we have consensus, receive and file, and then we will take as one, approving the members, authorizing the staff committee members to initiate outreach, and authorizing the staff to initiate facility use negotiations at all.
So
I'll move
moved.
approval, Pimentel the first.
He's first. You want to be second?
Sure, I'll be second.
Pimentel first, Kildorf on the second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No opposed. All right, I will read the names in for the record. City Council members Michelle Kildorf, Community Development Director Michael Allen, Planning Commissioner Melissa McCaverty, Rec and Parks Commissioner Kelly Watson, Arts and Culture Advisory Member Michael Sheps, Chamber of Commerce Marcia Hansen, and Community at Large is Tessa Rasmussen. Rasmussen, excuse me. All right, anything further for you?
I do have one totally unrelated item. There was a pretty large incident at Dockweiler over the weekend. I was out of town. I had some commentary on it. City of LA responded in force, and it doesn't sound like El Segundo Police Department was notified or the city in general. So it is, I guess, more maybe a future item to get a recap maybe on what happened. And I know that Daryl, you had reached out to the chief to do exactly that. So maybe he could report back, and it begs some sort of conversation about how we're notified of things like that. So there were instances, members of the community posting that people were coming up from Dockweiler, actually into their property, into their space. We had residents who were biking on the Strand at that point in time and were literally caught in like the middle of a melee that we knew nothing about.
Yes, absolutely, council member. We, in talking with the chief, we were not even called in on that and that incident, but he is preparing a report, and we'll get that to the council.
Thank you. That's all I got.
Councilmember Giroux.
Nothing for me this evening.
Councilmember Boyles.
I'm good, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I'll report about the South Bay COG meeting I attended. For Measure A, they again confirmed looking at $11.1 million to build new housing, and that most of that looks like it has to go to new construction, so they're actively looking for sites to try to spend this money as they present it. If you don't spend it, it goes away. So they're trying to figure out what to do with that. They did announce that they are been told they will receive the federal grant for the local travel network. So they've got confirmation that grant will actually go through. That's good news. They talked about the Housing Trust feasibility study and reported that the bill that was passed did not include usage for moderate housing. So they're going to have to correct that with another bill to make that apply to moderate housing. And then in the discussion about the homeless and the homeless population, El Segundo was recognized. He was Ron Son, who leads homelessness for the South Bay COG, was talking about the state of Texas shipping people to California with the promise of a job and a promise of things. And that happened to one lady who was in a hotel in El Segundo, who was bussed out from Texas and told she was going to have a job, and she had no job, she had no connection. They stated somehow Lieutenant Muir from El Segundo found out about it. He worked with the South Bay COG, got her reunited with her family, and was able to get that lady back home. So I asked him, you know, we've as a council have asked to kind of, we're very proud of Patches, but we're saying let's track these costs, because if there are programs or anything that we can get reimbursed for what we're doing, and he was very open to exploring that and saying, yeah, you can't pay for this, can't pay for that, but there are civil things that we can reimburse the city for. So I look forward to following up with him on that. And that's it. Oh, and happy 4th of July, everybody. Almost forgot the most important part.
I will contribute that this is our last meeting until August.
Yes.
So we will be off. We were dark on transportation, nothing of significance on any of the other regional boards, just a lot of minor approvals. City Attorney, anything?
Yes, along with the budget, the governor signed some more housing legislation, which is taking effect immediately. There are exemptions being granted from CEQA for numerous types of housing, almost all types of housing, not completely all, but most. And then also, this just all came, I'm reviewing it, I'll get something out to council in the next couple of days as far as an overview. ADUs and the fees being charged and whatnot, also legislation aimed at that issue. So again, this is all part of Sacramento's goal of increasing the amount of housing in the state. So again, this is taking effect, it took effect today. This is like urgency legislation. So I will get something out tomorrow or the next day to the council with more details.
In fairness, that's not part of the typical legislative process. That was an unusual step to add, to make passage of the budget contingent on that bill going through. We'll be meeting with the governor's office on July 8th, correct? They're in town July 8th.
I believe it's July 8th.
Where they asked us what we wanted, and we said
Right.
we said vetoes. We just want vetoes. 5,000 bills a year, just veto something. Just say no. It's fine. City Manager.
Yes, that meeting is July 8th, Mayor. Yes, I have a couple updates on Hyperion. The most important one has to do with the upcoming August 4th board hearing scheduled to take place, where we were hoping that our abatement order would be continued and discussed. At this point, it is not on the agenda. However, we're sending a letter to the board requesting that it remain on the agenda, and also we'll be drafting a letter on behalf of the council for your signature to send to AQMD regarding that hearing. We really want to know if the abatement order conditions, really get the status of those conditions. And also, what I'd like to add is that if any resident is interested, we would really encourage you to contact the AQMD board. I'm sure they'd love to hear from residents also. And I'll give you a phone number and an email address to reach out to them. The clerk of AQMD's phone number is 909-396-2500. And the email address is clerkofboard, all lowercase, at aqmd.gov. So I encourage you to please send a request that this item remain on the agenda and that we do get a full report of compliance with the abatement order. The only other thing to report is that AQMD did receive 8 odor complaints since our last meeting and did not issue any notice of violations. That concludes my report.
All right, and with that, before we adjourn, I would point out that the things that make our city special are that we know one another, and we celebrate our victories and we celebrate our losses. We lost a former city employee 2 weeks ago who was a beloved sister, wife, daughter, longtime member of the community from a family that is an institution. So Abby Topar passed 2 weeks ago, and we will close tonight in her honor. Thank you.